In this episode, we are going to discuss the 3 secrets of what the top 1% do to generate wealth. Number 1 is assets and liabilities. Number 2 is work ethic as it relates to creating income. And number 3 is looking at professional athletes and why most of them lose all their money. If you're interested in learning these 3 secrets, continue listening. Welcome to the Red to Black podcast with your hosts Warner and Mario. Mario, today we're discussing 3 secrets of the top 1% and how they earn most of their money. Would you mind sharing those with us?
Yeah, it's the way they look at assets versus liabilities. They're stacking up a bunch of assets, things that pay them to own them, versus liabilities are like a single family house or a car. It costs money to maintain those assets. So they definitely understand the difference between an asset and a liability. Second is their work ethic as it relates to passive income streams or multiple streams of passive income. So they're constantly working and generating different flows into their account every month of income streams. They're monomaniacal about creating multiple passive income streams or just income streams in general, their endorsements, etc. And the last one is they avoid unconscionable contracts. They avoid bad contracts. They don't sign up for bad deals. You'll see that almost any athlete or successful musician in America has the ability to be part of the 1%. It doesn't stick to the bones very often. They sign bad deals. They're paying their ex-wives and their paramours and their pilots. They're paying a lot of people money and paying off people, and it doesn't stick. The money doesn't stick around very long. So it passes through them, but it doesn't stick to make them part of the 1%. So as you look at the very successful, you'll notice that they don't sign anything. Basically, it goes to a bunch of really smart attorneys that figure out if it's a good deal or not, and they advise them, but they don't put their names on bad contracts. Over to you, Warner.
Yeah, so it reminds me of a show called Shark Tank. Mario doesn't watch a lot of TV. I don't know if have you seen that show?
I don't own a TV, but I've seen Shark Tank somewhere, maybe in an airport.
So Mario's seen it in an airport or on a phone somewhere. Anyways, there's this one investor in the program named Kevin O'Leary. And every time someone comes in with a pitch, it sounds great. It sounds amazing. Kevin O'Leary goes, okay, now let's talk about the numbers. That to me is the number one reason why most people are not successful. Out of all those 3 areas that you delineated, it goes back to one thing, and that's cash flow. That's how you create wealth. It's through cash flow. So if you're starting out and you have all these liabilities and you're making this money, yet you can't save any of it, how are you going to invest that in a passive investment that pays you money to own it? Because if you invest in passive investments over, say, 20 years, you'll have multiple different silos of wealth that are generating passive cash flow. So it starts with understanding the cash flow statement of your own household, right? And then understanding the cash flow statement when it comes to making cash and then investing that cash. If you all ground it back in the cash flow statement, you will excel at those 3 areas. What are your thoughts on that, Mario?
Absolutely, Warner. They understand the successful and the wealthy understand they want a lot of things that are paying them to own them, and they limit their exposure to liabilities that cost them money every month. The fancy houses, there's very few people in the world that can pretend to be wealthy and also be wealthy. These fancy houses and fancy cars are actually one of the main reasons why people can't get financially independent is because they have a house, they have a mortgage. They have a 4,000 square foot house, and they bought it in their 20s or 30s or their 40s. If you want to buy a house, make it a rounding error in your life. It's fine to own a house. There's nothing shameful about owning a house. Do it when it's a rounding error, when it doesn't even matter. Doing it early in your life, buying these big mansions early in your life, it's a horrible, horrible investment. It costs you money to own them. They destroy people's ability to get into that 1%.
Yeah, because what's happening is when you're first starting out, it's like a business, right? You want to mimic let's say you mimic a 40% operating margin business like Oracle. So how would you mimic that business with your assets and your liabilities?
You don't start by saying we need more office space. We just need to expand our office space. We need tons more space. You don't say that.
Exactly.
You're going, how do we make the little money we make? How do we snowball this into making more with marketing, with research and development, with expanding our brand and our products and services. You don't go, first thing we need is more office space. That's the last thing a company looks at. They're reluctant. They're dragging their feet to add more office space because they know at the end of the day, that's not helping them. It's hurting them. That's a cost.
And how do they know that? Because one of the things we'll talk about in another podcast, and there's some articles I'm posting on the redtoblackpodcast.com, which is the number one asset below the cash flow statement. The cash flow statement just gives you a metric, a measurable result, is value. That is the number one thing. And that's what you're pointing to with these three areas, is understanding value, whether you're evaluating your car, too much house, too little house, what type of food you're eating to power your body. This is all personal decisions. But when it comes to your own household and assets and liabilities, it starts with going, how much do I make a month? Let's say I make 10,000. Okay, let's mimic Oracle. Okay, Oracle retains, let's say 40%, around 40%. Okay, so then I'm going to retain 4,000 each month, and I'm going to save that 4,000. And then when you go down Oracle's cash flow statement to the cash flow from investing, right? Cash flow from investing, you're going to take that cash and go make smart acquisitions with it, meaning you're going to put it into other assets that pay you to own them. Now, Mario will talk, and I will talk about this in another podcast also. You could also build these businesses if there's nothing to buy, especially in today's world. Investors are now not just being investors or working for a business or building a business. Multiple people are doing all sorts of different, taking advantages of different ways you can make money, whether it's investing, buying a business, building a business. They're going to each of those areas because technology enables us to do that. So really what it comes down to is save 4,000 a month. At the end of the year, you have 48,000. Stack that cash, evaluate your business, whether you're going to build a business or buy a business, and then invest that money. That requires work ethic. And then number three, it doesn't require a baller lifestyle. I've lived the baller lifestyle in Hawaii and it almost sunk me. I had 200 grand saved up. I bought a house. I didn't manage the house correctly. I ran through all that money. I had the house. I kept it. I told Mario, I'm going to hold this until I can sell it. I'm not losing my equity. And I did for 10, 11 years. But it was like a noose around my neck. That's the situation or the environment that our goal is, that you're not in that type of environment. It starts with understanding how to value something, cash flow, assets, liabilities, work ethic, and then looking at examples of what not to do. That's how you can really, really get ahead. And it really goes back to that valuation and cash flow. What are your thoughts on that, Mark?
If you can figure out how to save $48,000 a year off of 120, $120, you're going to be in the 1%. It's just a matter of time. You do a couple decades of that, you'll be in the 1%, and invest that 48,000 a year. It's that most people are taking that 48,000 and put it into a single family mortgage.
Exactly.
And it's interesting, that word mortgage, morgue. It's an interesting word. It's the death of your ability to break out into the top 1%.
But we don't have a funeral every time someone buys a house, do we?
We should. We really should. A young man buys a house. You shouldn't be celebrating it. You should be showing up in black. Show up in black.
All right. Well, I think does it for our short episode on how the 1% generate wealth. And those are just some of the areas how they generate wealth, but it goes back to two really key things. And that's, how do you value an asset and value yourself, your time? Because there's certain things like eating food that don't necessarily return a monetary investment, but they increase your health, they increase your mindset. There's a certain type of car, like I have a Tundra, that creates security. It creates the ability to go in over multiple different types of terrain. It provides me the ability to store a bunch of stuff in it. So there's different way to evaluate things. And what we're specifically talking about today is how to create more wealth, which is money. And you do that by saving and investing and creating multiple silos of wealth that cash flow. Thank you for listening to this podcast. We invite you to get to know us by clicking on our LinkedIn profiles in the description of this video. Please subscribe, hit the bell notification for future updates, and share this content with your networks. Thank you for your valuable time and insights. We greatly appreciate it.